This video is very, very important to all in the Anglophone community, in the English speaking community who are interested and who desire the protection of the English speaking community and the Anglophone community and who are concerned with the constant assault and attack on that community here in North America. Before us now is a situation where from Canada all the way down to the Central American Commonwealth Nation of Belize, the English speaking community is under serious threat, whether it's in the United States, where we have day by day thousands upon thousands of illegals from these Spanish speaking nations, third world nations, coming across the border illegally, creating illegal neighborhoods, working illegally, just tearing at the fabric of the Anglophone community which founded the United States of America. Even in Canada, we see the same thing happening. Um, and now we go down to a tiny nation, which is a Commonwealth nation, a former British colony, and apart from Canada, the only other Commonwealth nation on mainland North America, and that is Belize. And what is happening now is, first of all, let me explain how we got to where we are. For years, the state of Guatemala, a very third world, backward, feudalistic country, which is known for many military dictatorships and has had many fascist dictatorships, has been trying to control some or all of this nation we call Belize. It has gone back even when Belize was a British colony called the British Honduras. Guatemala has always stated that part or all of Belize belongs to them and they're going to take it. And when Belize was granted independence in 1981, Guatemala thought that they could take Belize by force, but they saw what the British did to the Argentine during the Falklands War in the 80s when Argentine was whooped all over the South Atlantic for trying to take control of the Falkland Islands. Margaret Thatcher, Maggie Thatcher dealt with the Argentines, and the Guatemalans said doing this by force is not going to work because the British uh, have an interest in protecting their possessions and former possessions, and they would never allow Guatemala to come across the Belizean border and take that country by force. They would not allow this to happen. So now, what they've decided to do is encourage their peasants and their poor farmers, um, people like that, vagabonds in Guatemala, to go across the Belizean border, take unoccupied land, and take it for their own. Plant corn, plant bananas, plant all sorts of things. Just protect, like it's their own nation. Just take it. And you have to understand, unlike Belize, Guatemala is a very feudalistic nation. It's either you are very rich, which is a very small minority of the population, or you're very poor, which is most of the Guatemalan population. Belize, on the other hand, while being, yes, a third world nation, still, for the most part, has a middle class which uh, is moderately comfortable in their way of life. Unlike many of these other Central American nations, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, all these places, you don't hear of Belizeans coming to America in the caravan illegally. It's just something that is the average Belizean is not going to attempt to do. They don't really have a desperation. While yes, it's a poor country, there it's not a desperately poor, down and out type of country like the rest of these Central American nations. And what is happening now is that Guatemala has decided that they want to take Belize to court to determine whether or not all or some of Belize belongs to Guatemala. Guatemala has agreed to go to court, Belize still is yet to make a decision. And my advice, and my strong advice to the people of Belize, is to vote yes to take Guatemala to the International Court of Justice. Now, having said that, I am not a fan of the global community, the United Nations, and the International Court of Justice. But you have one thing going against you, Belize. Your country's population is a few thousand people. Guatemala has a population well over 1 million. If they decided that for every Belizean they were going to have one Guatemalan soldier to deal with that Belizean, they could do it in 2 seconds. They could do it. That's just it. Secondly, voting to put your head in the sand, and that's what you would be doing if you vote no. You're not taking them to court. Voting to put your head in the sand will just ensure that you're allowing these peasants, these down and out individuals from Guatemala to take more and more Belizean land until eventually most Belizean land is owned by Guatemalans. And that's just going to be a big, big assault on the English speaking community in North America. We see what's happening in the United States. We see what's happening in Canada. That's why I've always said to the English speaking community, not just in Canada, but in this continent, look at Quebec. Look at them as an example. Look at how they take care of their people. They take care of their culture. They take care of their community. They take care of their language. That is like the cradle of life to them. You can never dare do anything to upset or destabilize French in Quebec. The English speaking community has to do the same thing. They have to. Now, I understand there are many people who would say, well, the global community might vote against Belize. But here's the thing, the United Nations has said on several occasions that Belize is a country. There is no part of Belize which should go to Guatemala, not one bit. It is a country, and Guatemala has no right to one avenue of Belize, not one jungle field, not one cave, not one Maya tomb, not one avenue, not one building, not one straw hut, not one beach, nothing, nothing. Guatemala gets none of Belize. Belize is a completely sovereign, separate country from Guatemala. Guatemala has no right to any part of Belize. That's what they have said. So now they cannot go back on their word on one hand, and then on the other, the ICJ says, okay, we'll give a piece of Belize to Guatemala. If they were to do that, then I would encourage everyone in Belize and in the English speaking community in North America to rise up against the ICJ and against the United Nations in a very vicious way, even if it means someone like me. My father is Belizean, okay? So this is why it's so personal to me. Even if that means all Belizean expatriates from all over the world and all Commonwealth individuals all over the world come together and go down to Belize and fight the Guatemalans ourselves. That's what we would end up taking if they were to double cross us like that. But it would be, they know that that's something that could happen. So that is why we need to support Belize. And I'm asking anyone out there, if you know anyone who lives in Belize, if you live there yourself, or if you are able to vote in this referendum, I urge you to vote yes, to encourage Belizeans to vote yes, and to encourage them to take this fascist, militaristic, Zionist controlled Guatemala to court. And yes, I say Zionist control because Guatemala was one of those nations which said that they were going to move their embassy to Jerusalem. Not that I'm actually even against something like that, but you can just see, I mean, if you notice, if you follow the money, you'll know that Israel gives them money and gives them military power, all this sort of thing. And it's just one of those ways to destabilize the world. That's just a part of the plan for the Agenda 21 plan, the UN plan, the Bankers plan to destabilize the community. And we cannot allow a situation to happen where a small defenseless country like Belize, just because it cannot defend itself, it's put in a position where a big chunk of its land is given over to Guatemala. These individuals have squandered their own land for generations. They've elected uh, despotic leaders, and now they're trying to, after they've destroyed their land, they're going to come to a next land and destroy it. And we can't allow that to happen. So that is why I'm making this video. It's not just a problem that's occurring in America or in Canada or even up there in Europe. These problems are happening all over. And Belize is a nation which nobody talks about in the media, nobody pays any attention, but it is under attack. And the referendum has actually been temporarily suspended. And I'm urging the courts, the Supreme Courts, the politicians, all involved to bring a next date to have this referendum at the earliest opportunity so that the Belizeans can have the opportunity to have the decision to take Guatemala to court and demand that the world community recognize officially that Belize is an independent nation. They fought the Brits, they fought the Spaniards, and they're going to be damned if they allow Guatemala to take any part of their land. This is the Orana Nation.